this is a great matchup between the Cardinals and the Cowboys this weekend, but I'm going to focus on the Cardinals here. Just how pivotal of a game is this for the Cardinals to win in this matchup against the Cowboys?
Now, obviously, their record indicates that they're a lot better than what they've shown and put on, film lately. But this is a must-win game for the Cardinals. They're on a three-game skid. They were undefeated at one point. Kyler Murray was in the MVP talks for conversation. The chemistry with DeAndre Hopkins and Kyler was questionable because both battled a lot of injuries. But James Conner and that signing looked to be very, very, very effective. And I mean, you could just chalk this up to a lot of injuries as well on the Cardinal side. I mean, JJ went down obviously early on. D Hop's out for the foreseeable future unless they make a miraculous run to the Super Bowl, in which they said that might not even still be possible for him to return. James Conner's been out this week, might be even last. Excuse me, he was out last week, might even be out this week, but it's just not looking good on the Cardinal front, like Kyle said. They've been struggling in pretty much every facet of every phase. They missed field goals. They missed extra points against us. Obviously, their offense just does not look to be moving as well as it used to with DeAndre Hopkins on the field. And then their defense, they show flashes to where they can be a potential top 10 defense. They have a lot of fast and swarming linebackers. Their secondary is young and developing, but overall, they do have a very well put together team. They're just not executing. And I believe that if they lose this game, the NFC is so tight. I'm not going to say that they're going to miss the playoffs, but they're going to definitely be a first round exit. They might even fall. They've already fallen into a wild card seed, actually, now that they've lost three in a row and the Rams won last week. So I'm just going to say, they might fall down to the final seed of the wild card and they might end up getting completely exposed and eliminated within the first round. And it doesn't look good at all. Kyler looks off. The offensive line looks like they're not able to block for him consistently. And I don't know if Cliff Kingsbury is able to outcoach a lot of these other coaches that are scheming to kind of contain Kyler. So it sucks that everything kind of falters on the shoulders of that man with his mobility and that arm, but I think that they've been getting exposed the last couple of weeks, and it's showing.
Yeah, it's really kind of surprising that you're looking at the Cardinals. I mean, Kevin, throughout most of the year, they were our number one team as far as our power rankings went through pretty much the month of November. I mean, there was a large stretch where they were undefeated. But this month of December has just been absolutely awful for this team. I mean, just looking at the last couple weeks for this team, they've lost three straight games. And probably the biggest loss, surprisingly, was to the Detroit Lions, who
Oof.
is probably one of the worst teams in the NFL. And they got smacked by Detroit. I remember Arizona lost that game 30-12. Now, granted, the loss that they had last week against the Colts, it was more competitive. But with the amount of injuries that Indianapolis was dealing with going into that game, specifically on their offensive line, that was a must-win game for Arizona. And it was really quite surprising that offensively, they were only able to put up 16 points against a defense that didn't even have Darius Leonard as far as the Colts defense goes. So that was a game that they needed to get, and it really kind of highlights the struggles that this team has been going through as a unit. It's like you said, Kyler Murray has been off. He's been very turnover prone the last couple of weeks. And defensively, it's definitely showing just because this team is not as potent defensively as it was earlier in the year, and they have been giving up points consistently in this losing streak. They gave up 30 points to the Rams in the second week of December. Then they gave up 30 to Detroit. And granted, they were able to hold Indianapolis to 22 points last week, but when your offense is only scoring 15, 16 points against Indianapolis, it's not going to be enough. So when I look at the Cardinals here, I got to see more consistency from Kyler Murray. Granted, I know they're dealing with injuries with D Hop and James Conner, and that's a huge facet of their offense. But Kyler's really going to have to carry the load for this team offensively. And then defensively, they have got to get pressure on Dak Prescott, and they've got to be able to slow down that rushing attack that Dallas has with Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard. But with the way that Dak Prescott's been playing, specifically the way that he played last week against Washington, where he absolutely lit up that defense, it's going to be a very tall task for Arizona. I'm looking at this matchup for Arizona, and as far as I'm concerned, the odds are not in their favor, in my opinion. Now, I do think that they will be competitive against Dallas, but I just think that Dallas has the advantage. Dallas offensively is a nightmare to tackle defensively for Arizona. And I just don't think that Arizona is going to have the requisite pieces to go up against that Dallas defense. That Dallas defense can be had at times, but I just don't think that they're going to have the pieces to get by them in this matchup. So if I had to put a score out for this one, I do think it's going to be a relatively good game as far as scoring is concerned. I'm going to say that Dallas wins this one by the score of, let's say, 30-24. And I'm kind of being a little bit favorable to Arizona in this one just because they've been on a 3-game skid and they got to show me something in this one. But there's a very good chance that Dallas can win this game by 2 possessions if Arizona turns the ball over in a consistent fashion against that Dallas defense. But I'm going to say 30-24. Dallas gets the win. And it really does exacerbate just the issues that Arizona has had a whole the last month or so.